Hey kids, it's July 22nd, Wednesday. We are still at the same hotel with our friends. It was another calm and enjoyable day. One of you slept for almost 3 hours this afternoon, so I was slightly stuck in the room. But honestly, that wasn't a bad thing. It gave me some proper time alone. Later, we had a lovely dinner. On the way back, however, both of you became tired and cranky. Today, I want to talk about a quality I see in both of you. You seem to have a beautiful, natural balance between determination and adaptability. Many adults have one, but struggle with the other. Some are very determined, but continue pushing long after a goal has stopped making sense. Others change direction so quickly that they never stay with anything long enough to succeed. You have reminded me several times that we need both. Not by explaining it, simply by being yourselves. One of my favorite examples first happened when the older one of you was around 1.5 or 2 years old. A few years later, I watched the younger one of you do almost exactly the same thing. The scene usually looked like this. I would be sitting in your bedroom or on the couch. Somewhere on a shelf behind me would be an object you wanted. Usually something I had already told you not to touch. You knew that if you walked directly toward it, I would stop you. So you created a strategy. Instead of going toward the object, you came toward me. You wrapped your hands around my leg. You smiled. You climbed onto my lap and sat there as though being close to me had been your plan all along. Then the real operation began. You put one little arm around my shoulder. You pulled yourselves slightly higher, made one small adjustment, then another. And from somewhere inside my blind spot, your other hand slowly began reaching toward the object behind me. It was brilliant. Not because you succeeded. Most of the time you didn't. Eventually, I noticed what was happening. I would laugh, say, "Nice try," and gently place you back on my lap or on the floor. Mission over. Or so I thought. A few minutes later, you tried again. Perhaps you waited until I was distracted. Perhaps you approached from a different angle. Maybe you hugged me for longer before beginning the operation. You experimented. You adjusted. You learned. At first, I thought the lesson was simply persistence, and persistence was certainly part of it. You didn't allow the first obstacle to become the final answer. You made a plan, took a small step, observed the result, changed the plan, then tried again. This is also how you learned to walk. You stood, you fell, you tried again. You adjusted your feet, held the furniture differently, gradually trusted your balance. You didn't expect to master walking in one enormous leap. You simply kept taking the next step. That is how many worthwhile things are achieved. But years later, I realized that persistence was not the most interesting part of the story. The deeper lesson came afterward. Sometimes, after enough attempts, you stopped trying. Not because I had defeated you, not because you lacked determination. You stopped because the object no longer mattered. It was no longer shiny enough. Something else captured your curiosity. You found another toy, heard a sound, saw something move, and you simply continued with your life. That ability is something many adults struggle to recover. We admire determination. We tell people, never quit, keep pushing, never give up. And determination is a wonderful quality. Without it, very little of value would ever be accomplished. Most meaningful goals eventually become difficult. There will be periods when progress is slow, days when the excitement disappears and only effort remains. If you abandon every goal as soon as it becomes uncomfortable, you will never discover what you are capable of doing. But determination has a shadow. If you remain loyal to a goal long after it has stopped serving your life or values, determination quietly becomes stubbornness. You are no longer continuing because the destination matters. You are continuing because stopping feels like admitting defeat. Adaptability has a shadow too. If you change direction whenever something becomes difficult, you never stay on one path long enough to achieve anything. You begin projects, but don't complete them. You start learning skills, but stop when progress becomes slow. You enter relationships, but leave when conflict appears. Then adaptability becomes avoidance. Life is not about choosing determination or adaptability. It is about learning when each one is needed. Have the determination to continue climbing while the mountain still matters. Have the humility to change course when it no longer does. That sounds simple. It isn't. Knowing when to continue and when to stop can be one of life's hardest judgments. Children sometimes understand it naturally. You wanted the object. You tried several strategies. You persisted. But once it lost its value, you didn't create a complicated story around walking away. You didn't think, I have already invested 10 minutes in this mission, so I must continue for another 2 hours. You simply moved on. Adults make this much more complicated. We become attached not only to what we want, but also to the effort we have already spent trying to get it. There is a concept called the sunk cost fallacy. It means continuing to invest in something because of what you have already put into it, even when continuing no longer makes sense. You may think, I've already spent 3 years on this. I've already invested so much money. I've already sacrificed too much. I cannot stop now. But the time, money, and energy already spent are gone. The better question is, knowing what I know today, is this still the best place for my next hour, euro, or year? Sometimes the answer is yes. The goal still matters. The struggle is temporary. The next step remains worthwhile. Then continue. But sometimes the answer is no. Perhaps you stay in a job that makes you deeply unhappy because you have already spent 10 years building that career. Perhaps you continue an argument long after you have forgotten what it was about because walking away feels like losing. Perhaps you chase a dream that belonged to a younger version of yourself. You no longer genuinely want it, but abandoning it feels like betraying who you used to be. Sometimes we keep climbing mountains we no longer want to stand on, simply because we have already climbed halfway. But walking away is not always failure. Sometimes it is the wisest choice available. It may free your energy for something that matters more. It may protect your health, your family, your dignity, your time. It may allow you to climb a different mountain that actually belongs to you. The difficult part is separating temporary discomfort from a genuine change in direction. You may feel like quitting because you are tired. That does not mean the goal is wrong. You may feel frustrated because progress is slow. That does not mean it is time to leave. You may be afraid of failing. Fear is not always evidence that you should stop. Sometimes fear simply means the next step matters. So before changing direction, pause and ask better questions. Does this goal still reflect my values? Would I choose it again today? Is the problem the destination, or am I simply uncomfortable with the journey? Have I given this enough honest effort? Could a different method work? Am I exhausted and in need of rest, or am I truly moving in the wrong direction? And perhaps the most important question, am I still climbing because I genuinely want what is at the top, or because I don't want to admit that I may have climbed this far for nothing? Those are very different reasons. Learning to tell them apart may save you years of climbing the wrong mountain. But I also want you to be careful with the phrase, I no longer want this. Sometimes we say that because we are afraid we may not succeed. It is easier to claim that a goal no longer matters than to risk discovering that we cannot reach it. That is why honesty with yourselves matters. Are you adapting because you learned something new, or escaping because the next step is difficult? Are you wisely changing course, or protecting yourselves from discomfort? Nobody can answer those questions for you perfectly. Your mother and I may offer advice. Friends or mentors may see things you cannot see. But eventually, you must understand yourselves well enough to decide. And even then, you may choose wrongly. You may stop too soon, or continue too long. That is part of life. Wisdom is not making every decision perfectly. It is paying attention, learning from the consequences, and adjusting more intelligently next time. Looking back, your little climbing adventures taught me a useful process. First, decide whether the goal matters. Then, make a plan. Take the next small step. Observe what happens. Adapt the method when necessary. Persist through reasonable difficulty. But every now and then, stop and look at the mountain again. Ask whether it is still worth climbing. The destination may still matter, but perhaps the route needs to change. You do not have to abandon the mountain simply because one path is blocked. Try another route. Ask for help. Develop a different skill. Wait for better conditions. That is adaptability serving determination. But if the mountain itself no longer matters, give yourselves permission to walk away. That is not necessarily quitting. It may be choosing. You are deciding that your limited time and energy belong somewhere else. There is courage in continuing, but there can also be courage in stopping. There is strength in commitment. But there is also strength in admitting, this no longer fits the person I am becoming. I hope you preserve the balance I see in you now. Keep the curiosity that helps you experiment. Keep the determination that makes you try again after the first setback. But also keep the flexibility that allows you to let go when something no longer deserves your attention. Don't stay on a path only because you started it. Don't abandon it only because it became difficult. Pause. Look honestly at yourselves. Look at the destination. Then choose deliberately. And whenever you forget this lesson, spend a little time watching a curious toddler. They may remind you more clearly than any book or any father ever could. Make a plan. Take the next step. Adjust when needed. Keep climbing while the mountain matters, and have the wisdom to choose another one when it doesn't. And do not ever forget, I love you both very, very much.